Be the envy of the neighborhood. 860 KKAT, where the grass is always greener. Welcome to Gardening Utah. Here's composter and show hoster, Jana Francis.
Welcome to Gardening Utah. I'm your host, Jana Francis. Every week here on Gardening Utah, we give you gardening inspiration and advice from experts across the state. We talk about vegetables, flowers, trees, shrubs, and of course, your lawn. Thank you for listening. I hope this show is something that you'll look forward to checking in with every week. Whether you're a beginner or an expert, Gardening Utah aims to inspire you and keep you in the know of what tasks you should be accomplishing in your yard and meet amazing, informative experts along the way. This show airs on the radio on the weekends here in Utah at 10 a.m. on 860 AM KKAT, and episodes drop every weekend on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, so hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Well, today's show is jam-packed with information and inspiration from someone we've actually never had on the show before. I'm so excited to introduce you all to the owner of Anderson Seed and Garden in Logan. Mark Anderson has been in the garden industry for 30 years. He hosts his own call-in radio show weekly in Cache Valley on KVNU. Now, Mark loves to grow all kinds of vegetables, even the ones that he doesn't like to eat. He also is an expert in all kinds of different, unique, and rare varieties, and he knows kind of the best of all the vegetables. Customers love to go into Anderson Seeds and talk to him about what they should be putting in their garden, and I'm really excited for you to hear how you can go in and have a very unique seed shopping experience. Anyway, let's get right after it with Mark, but first, the tip of the week.
860 KKAT with your Gardening Utah tip of the week.
My tip of the week is, do you have rhubarb plants? If so, it's that time of year to go on out and check to see if they're starting to grow flower stalks. And if so, you want to cut them out. Now, these flower stalks are really pretty and it's almost a shame to cut them out. But do you have to? Not necessarily. They're not going to harm the plant and they won't affect the flavor of the rhubarb that you eventually harvest, but it will greatly limit your harvest. And that is because it takes a lot of energy from that plant to produce those flowers and the seed stalks, and all their energy is being diverted from producing stalks that we harvest and eat and make delicious pies and crumbles out of, by the way. Now, initially, these original flower stalks start off as what looks kind of like a seed pod at the base of the plant. So as soon as you notice these seed pods or the flower stalks, just remove them with a sharp knife and cut them as close to the base of the plant as possible. And again, don't worry if you do see these flower or seed pods because it's perfectly normal for this to happen, and most rhubarb plants do this. And now one last note, when you actually do harvest the leaf stalk of the rhubarb to make pies or whatever you're going to do, remember to discard the leaves because they do contain high concentrations of oxalic acid that can make you quite sick. So they're not edible. Don't feed them to livestock either. Just discard them into either the compost pile or leave them in the garden as mulch. And enjoy your rhubarb harvest.
And that's your Gardening Utah tip of the week, brought to you by the Advocates. If you're in an accident, you deserve an advocate. Call 801-355-5550 or visit utahadvocates.com. Never miss a tip for your garden and never miss an episode. The Gardening Utah Podcast with Jana Francis on 860 KKAT.
Okay, and here we are. I finally have Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden on the show. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. I really appreciate the invitation. This is kind of exciting.
It's so funny because I was at the UNLA Association meeting and I started asking a lot of other garden experts looking for really interesting and exciting guests of the show. And you were brought up multiple times. I'm so excited to have you here.
Well, thank you. We try and be as memorable as possible, and we try and make a difference for the people that we come in contact with. And sometimes that's other companies as well, too. So thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. Okay, so why don't you start with telling our listeners, you've got a radio show in Cache Valley. We have a lot of podcast listeners up in the Logan area. So why don't you give them all about you?
Absolutely. So my name is Mark Anderson, and my grandmother actually started Anderson Seed and Garden in 1942. So we've been around for a long time. Of course, I haven't been there that long, but she started the business, and it was right in the same location where we're at right now. She only rented like 500 square feet from the Sidney Stevens Implement Company, which used to own the building that we're in right now. And she started with that 500 square feet, and every year she'd just kind of add a little bit more. My grandfather actually had a dairy. And so the Anderson Dairy was kind of his part of the family business. And Grandma started her own. And after a while, Grandma was doing so well that he sold the dairy and came to work for her.
Wow.
So, yeah. But, my parents took over and ran the store for quite a few years, along with my aunt and uncle. And then my wife and I bought the store in 1999 from my parents. So it's just been my wife and I for 22, 23 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. It's been a great choice for us. We're looking at a lot of different options, but to stay local, especially in Cache Valley, it's such a beautiful place. It's such a great place. And we both had family here. We wanted to keep our kids close to grandparents, and it was just a great opportunity for us to stay in the valley and do some things that we like, because we both grew up gardening. We both love it. It's not it's not my background. I have degrees in other areas, but we've just done it for so long. We've learned so much, and we just love sharing that information with people. So we started doing our own radio show probably about 2006, I think it was, and we're on KVNU. So it's 6:10 a.m. right here in Cache Valley, and it's from 8 until 9 o'clock on Saturday mornings, and it's a straight up call-in radio show. So we get probably anywhere between 7 and 10 callers per show during an hour, and it's question and answers. We're just trying to help people solve their problems. They'll come to us with all kinds of plants to diagnose and problems. And people send me pictures all the time. Hey, here's my tree. What's wrong with it? Have to diagnose what's happening with their tree. Sometimes they don't even know what kind of a tree it is, but they still want to find out what's wrong with it. And we try and help them find solutions for those things. So that's what we do on the radio show. And it's a lot of fun. It's one of the funnest, I guess, marketing avenues that we pursue is getting that interaction with our listeners and especially with our customers, and how much they appreciate that information we share with them.
Well, and I think that, that was one of the reasons that I actually started this show. I've said it a few times on different episodes that I really wanted to support and promote the local garden centers, because I feel like the experts such as yourself at these individual locations are critical to, giving the end consumer like myself the right information at the right time.
Right.
And it's just becoming fewer and further between, I think. So anything we can do, I think, to keep this going.
It is. And it's really interesting to see how retail has evolved, and we've kind of gone to online, and you can order anything online. And a lot of the products that we carry at Anderson Seed and Garden, you can buy them online. But there's nobody there to tell you how to use it or how it's going to work or which plants to use it on. And so, it really hasn't affected our business that much. In fact, it's probably sent more people to us because they go online, they Google their plant or they Google a problem, and they get 10 different answers from 10 different parts of the country. And then they can never tell which one's the right one. So then they come in, they're like, Mark, I just come to you because I know you're going to know the answer. And, by the time they've left, we've helped them discover what's wrong with their plant, help them find a solution. Maybe they need a product to correct it. Maybe they don't. And we've helped them work through their problem. And next time they don't go to Google, they come to Anderson's.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Google, we were talking a little bit before the show that it is so important to get localized information, because you can get such wrong information online. No offense to some bloggers and some YouTubers, but it really can be totally irrelevant information for the state of Utah.
Yeah. And every area where you live is very specific, whether it's your soil or whether it's your climate or whether it's, your latitude or longitude. I mean, there's so many factors that play into it. And people don't realize that, they've gone online and they searched that, their plant's struggling and they need to add lime to it. And it's like, no, we're in Utah. And every drop of water that runs over 5 million stones on the way down to the creek where you're going to pull your water from, it's run over 5 million limestones already, and our pH is really high. No, we're going to acidify. We're not going to use lime. I mean, those are things that people find online all the time, and it's just like, no. We don't need to do that here. That's somebody back east talking about their acidic soil instead.
Yes.
So It's very, very localized, especially here in Cache Valley, where we're probably 10 days to 2 weeks, colder in the spring. Like our last frost is around the 20th of May. And, on the Wasatch Front, it's closer to the 1st of May, and in the fall, our first frost is always, closer to the end of September. And on the Wasatch Front, it's like closer to the middle of October. So 2 weeks on the front end, 2 weeks on the back end. And, it's a little more specific here in Cache Valley.
Yeah, it really is. In fact, I'm realizing that's a whole month off of the growing season.
It really is. But, it doesn't affect our crops. We just grow amazing crops and beautiful flowers and vegetables. It's like, people push the season sometimes a little bit too much. We have a saying at Anderson's, plant early and plant often. And that means, the earlier you plant, the more often you're going to have to replant.
It's so true. I know. In fact, I had a couple questions. I get, as I'm sure you do too, lots of questions on Instagram. And one of them was, Jana, how tall are your tomato starts right now? And I said, I just started them last week. They haven't even germinated. I mean, they're just starting to germinate now. They're like, wait, what do you mean? A lot of people are putting them out in wall of waters. And I'm like, it's not going to do any, catch up.
It's all about soil temperature. So when your soil temperature warms up, that's when things are going to start growing. So you can put a tomato out on the first week of April and put a wall of water or aquadome on it, and it's going to keep it from dying for about a month, maybe 6 weeks, and that's pretty much all it's going to do. But until that soil warms up and really gets things going, they're just going to sit there. So we planted the middle of April with a wall of water. We planted after Mother's Day with a wall of water on it, and probably had production on both of those plants within 5 days of each other.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
I love that.
So nothing happens until it warms up, until that soil warms up, till you get those nice warm nighttime temperatures. Think about, last year we had hot nighttime temperatures. A lot of people don't realize that the plants like that hot nighttime temperature, especially peppers. And so everybody's peppers and tomatoes matured very, very well last year because we had those hotter nighttime temperatures. I usually tell people it's like when you're miserable at night and you have to shut the windows and turn the air conditioner on, that means your peppers are really happy. They would like it to be 90 degrees during the day and 85 degrees at night. And that's when they will mature and produce a mature color. So green peppers are not mature. Those are immature peppers. We want a red pepper or a golden pepper or an orange pepper or a purple pepper. To get those colors to mature, you need warm nighttime temperatures. And the same thing with tomatoes to get them to set. And we don't want it too hot. But until we get those consistent warm nighttime temperatures, your fruit won't set and your stuff won't ripen up. And so that's what we're really looking for. Soil temperatures, nighttime temperatures. Makes a big difference in the vegetable garden.
That's such great advice. And I think that really helps the listeners to know that you don't need to feel like you need to speed through this process. If you're assuming you're starting seeds, right?
Yeah. And think about 2 years ago. So last year was a really hot, dry summer. The year before was a cool, wet summer. And so 2020, we had a cool summer, and there were hardly any nights that I remember that were miserable, but nobody's peppers matured. It's like we got to the latter part of August, first part of September, latter part of September, everybody's coming in going, why won't my peppers change color? It's because it was too cold at night. So those nighttime temperatures make a huge, huge difference in how your plants mature. There's some things we can do to trick them. We can trick them into, retaining a little bit more heat at night to get those to mature. There's some things we can do in August and September to get those plants to ripen up when we want them to.
Do you feel like peppers do better in a raised garden box with the soil being a little warmer?
It will definitely warm up quicker. It will get colder faster in the fall, though. Since it is raised, you'll lose temperature a little bit quicker as well, too. But with the raised beds, the great thing about it is you can control your soil, you can control your nutrient, and so you can really get some great production off of those. And if you need to, you can do kind of half tunnels and seed cloth or insulate blankets to try and really retain that heat at night to get those plants to mature up.
Absolutely. I used to be that antsy gardener where, okay, I'm going to get my squash seeds, planted. And at least I know they don't like to be transplanted too much out of the pots. So I would start them early. And last year, I kind of did a similar experiment that you were mentioning with the tomatoes, where I just started them in ground around Mother's Day weekend, which is where you can in Salt Lake area. And I felt like they just exploded compared to
So we've done it both ways too. And if you start them from seed, They take a little bit longer, but sometimes when you transplant mature plants, they go through transplant shock for a couple of weeks. And by then, your seeds can actually catch up to them and they'll produce about the same time. So some of the tricks that we'll do, especially in Cache Valley to warm that soil up, is we'll put black plastic or we'll put weed barrier out a couple of weeks in advance of planting and let it just generate some heat and warm the soil up. And then we'll cut holes into the weed barrier or the black plastic, open that up, and then plant the seeds or the plants right into it where it's really warmed the soil up. And after you plant your seeds, put a hot cap over the seeds. It will hold the heat and the moisture in there. Your stuff will germinate faster and it'll catch up to your plants. It'll catch up to your seedlings for sure.
That's amazing. I love to hear that. Okay, so look, I want the listeners to know all about how they can buy. I think you have such a unique way of buying seeds at your store. So I'm really excited to hear about it.
Yeah. So seeds are our specialty. Of course, we're Anderson Seed and Garden, but we've been doing seeds this way since Grandma opened the doors in 1942. So we've got a big counter where all the seeds are in drawers, and we do have some of our excess varieties in containers as well too. But you come in and we've got all these old-fashioned balance scales right there at the seed counter, and you walk in and you say, okay, my garden is 25 feet long. My rows are 25 feet long, and I want 3 rows of peas. And we'll just weigh up the amount that you need to cover the area that you've got, or half a row of carrots. We'll weigh it up right in front of you. It's kind of like going to the candy counter and they just weigh the candy up right in front of you, but it's seeds instead of candy, And so, we have a lot of customers, that have been frequenting our store for years and years and years, and they can buy them online from us. We'll package them and ship them right to them, but they want to come in and experience getting their seeds. They'll talk to all the people that are around them. There's a lot of people standing in line sometimes, and they'll talk about varieties, and they'll hear us mentioning some of our favorite varieties, and then they want to, try that as well too. And so it gives you opportunity to learn about new varieties, because we're talking about all these different things, and then you can get exactly the amount that you want. So whether it's 5 seeds of zucchinis or an ounce of zucchinis, which is enough for the whole neighborhood and every other neighborhood in your city.
I'll take but 1 zucchini seed, please.
But you can buy as many or as little as you like, and we'll just weigh it up right in front of you, and it's priced by the weight, so it's a lot less expensive. We have a lot of people that come in, they'll get some packaged seeds from us. We've got a couple different companies of packaged seeds that we sell as well too. But they'll come up to the checkout with that, and we'll look at them and go, why didn't you get them in bulk? And they're like, well, because these have pretty pictures on them. It's like, yeah, but we've got the same information that we can give to you on the sheet or on our website, or here's how you grow it. But if you buy the seeds in bulk, it's going to cost you 1/10 of what you're spending on those packages. So for example, a pound of peas, which would do 100 feet of row, you buy a little package and there's a half an ounce of seed in that package, and you're paying $1.50 for them. Ours are $5 for a pound.
Oh my word.
Yeah. So that's just one example. So it's much, much less expensive, but you can, more importantly, get the amount that you want instead of having to buy 10 little packets because you want to do a whole bunch of peas or you want to do a whole bunch of corn. You can get the amount that you need to do your garden, whether it's large or small.
I love this so much because, how many of us have listeners? I know that you have this. You've got your shoebox that's in your garage, and it's filled with seeds that date back to the 90s.
And I have one of those too.
Yeah. Because if you're just a family garden, you don't need 150 tomato seeds.
No,
of the same variety.
Yeah, exactly. But if you have a big garden and you're going, hey, I'm going to can corn next year, like crazy. I want to do, a couple 200, I want to do 5 50-foot rows.
Yeah.
How many little packages do you have to buy? You got to buy a ton of little packages. You just come into Anderson's and you just go, I need 150 feet of corn. And we just weigh it up in front of you. And we'll say, okay, we're going to space that at 2 seeds every 12 inches in the row. And you're going to go 3 to 4 feet between rows. And here's the information on how to plant that. And they're like, oh, this is amazing. Thank you so much. And even has the timing on there, when to plant and how deep and how far apart and all that stuff. We have all that information. So.
Okay, this is definitely worth the field trip too from Salt Lake.
Yes,
there's so much to see in Logan. It's so gorgeous anyway.
We have so many people that come from the Salt Lake area. We have people that come from St. George. We have people that come from Southern Idaho, Wyoming, because this is the only place they can buy seeds like that.
Yeah.
They'll make a trek like once or twice a year just to come and see us, just to get their seeds. And of course, then they get sucked into the greenhouse and have to see all the beautiful plants and the trees and the flowers and everything as well too. But they're really coming to have that seed experience where they can, find out some new varieties, and they can hear about somebody else's success story. And hey, with this variety was like the best corn. I had a gentleman in yesterday from Salt Lake. He came up last year. He bought some corn and he remembered me selling it to him. And he was like, "You told me last year that this was the best corn that I'm ever going to ever grow. And I'm going to come back next year and get the same variety because I won't be able to like survive with anything else because it's so good." He's like, "I'm back."
Oh, wow.
So it's like he took my advice and he tried a new variety that he was maybe a little hesitant to try. And he was just like, "It was the best corn I've ever used. I freeze dried it. It was like so sweet. I could like eat it raw. It was like amazing." And I was like, "Yes, that's exactly what I told you."
Oh my word. I love this. Okay. So speaking of then, tell us, what is it?
It's a variety that's called Optimum. And we get it from a local grower up in Idaho, and it's a super sweet variety, and it just holds its quality for so long, and it's freezable, and it's the sweetest corn you've ever grown. It's amazing. Yeah.
Oh my word. Okay, now I have to have some.
Yep,
That's what happens to me on this show. Okay, well, we will be right back after this with Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden. Stay with us.
860 KKAT with Jana Francis and Gardening Utah, where it's always mulch time.
We are supported by ProgressivePlant.com. They are the experts that the professionals go to for all things plants. Visit ProgressivePlant.com today.
It's the Gardening Utah Proven Winners Color Choice Shrub of the Week. Here's Cameron Alcott with Progressive Plants.
Hey everybody, it's Cameron from ProgressivePlants.com, and one of the questions that I get asked a lot is about hydrangeas, and people want to know what kind of mophead hydrangeas live in Utah. Well, there really isn't a whole lot, but Proven Winners Color Choice Shrubs has actually come out with one that I'm excited about, and I am really hopeful that it's actually going to perform here. Let's Dance Ariba isn't just a regular big leaf hydrangea, it's crossed with a hardier mountain hydrangea, so my hope is that it performs better here in Utah with that increased hardiness. My advice would still be keep it at least in some afternoon shade and really think about volcano mulching it over the winter to protect the base of the plant. The flower color is dependent on soil pH, so expect more of a pink color in the ground here. However, due to its small size of being only 2 to 3 feet, you could keep it in a container and water with an acidifying fertilizer, and you might get more of a purplish mauve color, but I don't know that you'll get anything blue ever. Pick up yours now from ProgressivePlants.com and search for Hydrangea Let's Dance, or look in the episode notes for the link to this unique new hydrangea from Proven Winners Color Choice Shrubs.
Look for the Proven Winners white containers at ProgressivePlants.com or at your local garden center.
We are supported by ProgressivePlant.com. All things plants. Visit ProgressivePlants.com today.
She really does have the nicest yard on the block. It's Gardening Utah with Jana Francis on 860 KKAT.
Welcome back to Gardening Utah. I'm your host, Jana Francis, and with me today is Mark Anderson from Anderson's Seed and Garden in Logan. Thanks for being here. This has been so much fun to get to know you.
Oh, it is. It's so much fun to talk about gardening, and we've kind of hit some fun topics already, whether it's starting your seeds outside or getting seeds at Anderson's, but so many things going on right now. It's just like a cornucopia of excitement out in the garden because there's so many things to do. It's like overwhelming. Where do I start?
It really is. It's the best and worst time of year, but it is the most exciting time of year, I think, aside from maybe harvest season, right?
Yes, harvest season's the best because then you get to like sample everything that's coming out of your garden. And that's what we always tell people. It's like, I had a young couple in the other day, and we've got a lot of real excitement with newly married people and even kids that are in school still. They're just like, I want to be outside. I want to like plant stuff. And it's a great resurgence in our industry where people are really excited about being outside. But a lot of times they'll come in and they want to start their own seeds and they want to do this and they want to, they just want to get into everything. It's like, okay, are we doing this because we're trying to save money? Or are we doing this because it's fun and it's enjoyable and it's rewarding? And sometimes they're going to say it's because I want to save some money. It's like, okay, we're not going to do this. Just come in and buy the plants, because by the time you get the seed starting kit and you get the light and you get the heat mat and you get, everything, it's like your tomato is now $100 tomato plant.
Yes.
But if we're doing it because we enjoy it and we're having a lot of fun with it and it's rewarding, okay, then I'll show you how to do it all. But there's a line between, how much are we spending for that tomato plant in our garden, what we're going to maybe get a bushel of tomatoes off of, compared to what I can go buy at the grocery store. But when it comes to what you're growing yourself, it tastes so much better. The quality is so much better, and it's like fresh because you just went and picked it. And so you just have a different taste and a different texture what you grow yourself than what you get at the grocery store. So there's some definite trade-offs when it comes to growing your own vegetables, but flavor is never going to be one of those.
That's right. And the reward, I mean, just the own personal, like, I did this is just it's so
satisfying.
rewarding. Yeah,
it's really satisfying. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I grow in my garden that I never eat all of it because there's just no way. There's so much. I mean, so we'll take a bunch to the food pantry and we'll share a bunch with the neighbors and, try and convince the neighbor down the street to come and pick the corn because we're going to be out of town for a week, But it's just kind of fun to share. And my dad, ran the store for 50 plus years, and he was just one of the most generous people. And anybody that come to his garden, just to see, they'd leave with a bushel of stuff. He just was so happy to share. We try and do the same thing with our garden. So it's just fun. Yeah.
I love that. Well, you reminded me of the other week, I had Sean Moser from the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District in the Conservation Garden Park on the show. He was talking about the history of lawn and why we have lawn. And he said in the past, and we're talking like early 1800s, there wasn't really lawn because land and the yard around your home was only for one thing only. It was to feed your family and make money.
To plant, yeah.
Yeah. And the only reasons lawn started to come about is because it became a sign of wealth, where the presidents were putting it outside their big plantations or what have you. And it became the sign of like abundance. I don't need to plant fruit or food in my yard because I am, and so it's just so fascinating to think.
Very interesting.
And I loved that comment, and it stuck with me because I really love to get production out of my yard. Right now I'm pulling spring onions, I'm always pulling something from the yard, and I've got chickens. So every day I'm going to get eggs, and it's like my lawn and yard and garden works for me. And so I just think that's kind of an interesting thought. And when you mentioned the corn and your neighbors and stuff, I love sharing too. So I think
we need to get together and talk grass sometime too, because I think grass gets a bad rap. It's like, grass can be very, very productive if you do it right. And it doesn't have to take a whole lot of water. But I think sometimes we just go, oh, grass, it's going to use a lot of water. There's some really good options. But just think about if your yard didn't have any grass, how much mud and dirt and dust you'd have there, and how much water it collects. I mean, it's a great filter for water, and it just retains some of that water into the soil so we can get some soil moisture built up. So we'll have to talk grass sometime.
Yes. It cools down your house. I mean,
it does so many different things, but we were talking vegetables though.
Yes.
It's a great time to get your early crops out there. So, for us, we're still going to have frost for a few weeks, and probably on the Wasatch Front as well too. So, all your early crops can handle cold weather. They can handle some frost. They can handle a little snow, even if we get some snow. So peas, spinach, lettuce, radishes, onions, cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, kale, those can all handle really cold temperatures. But now we're like transitioning into carrots and beets and chard and potatoes and parsnips. Those can all be planted right now. So if it snows this weekend, they don't care. Bring it on. But then once we get past that last frost, whenever that is in your area, then we can move to the tender stuff. So then we're like beans and corn, because they take a little bit of time to come up. And then as it warms up a little bit more, your soil warms up, then you get to all your vines, cucumbers, melons, squashes, pumpkins, and tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, all those fun things.
And those are the things you're going to put in very, very last, right after the last frost.
Yeah. So we're usually planting like our beans and our corn right around Mother's Day, because it takes about a week or 10 days sometimes for them to come up. So by the time they come up, we're past that, usually that 15th to the 20th of May, where we get frost in Cache Valley still. But, it is Cache Valley. We always complain about the weather, and all it takes is, wait 5 minutes and you'll have something different.
Yeah.
But that's just how it works. But I mean, we'll have frost as late as the 1st of June, and sometimes we don't even have frost in May. So you just never know what Mother Nature's going to throw at you. So better be prepared.
Yeah, so unpredictable.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the question that you're getting the most right now inside the nursery?
Right now, a lot of people in Cache Valley are concerned about their raspberries, whether it's controlling weeds in their raspberries or how to prune them, or is it time to plant them? And so we're really getting a lot of raspberry, small berries, strawberries, blueberry, blackberry questions. And when it comes to raspberries, there's a really great rule of thumb that just kind of hits it right on the head. Best time to plant raspberries is any month that has an R in it. So you think about it, March has an R in it, April has an R in it, but May does not have an R in it. So if you're planting your raspberries in May, it's too late. You pushed it too far. So you got to get those planted right away. But then there's no R's until you get to September, October, and those are R months. So fall's a really good time to plant those raspberries again. Yeah, that's a great rule, isn't it?
I'm sitting here with my jaw on the floor. This is something I've never heard, and I love it.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. So good time to plant raspberries. Great time to plant strawberries, blueberries, blackberries. We've got lots of bare root plants at Anderson's. We do a bare root sale starting in March. We do bare root plants all the way through March and April. And when they start to leaf out, then we have to pot them up. But we do a lot of bare root trees, like fruit trees, every fruit tree you can think of. And we bring in about 5 different kinds of strawberries and about 10 different kinds of raspberries. And this is a great time of year to plant those. But then we've got people who have existing plants that are worried about, how do I get grass out of my raspberries without killing my raspberries? How do I not have to spend hours on hours trying to get weeds out of my raspberries? And there's some really great options out there to control those. So there's some selective herbicides that will just kill grass, that will not bother your raspberries, won't bother you, won't kill ground cover, won't hurt roses, won't hurt strawberries or asparagus, but it will just selectively kill the grass that's in there. And so that's a really great option to kill heavy, thick grass that has gotten into your raspberry patch or into your roses or whatever. So some really great options there. But one of the very best products that probably nobody ever talks about is a product that's called Casoron. Casoron is a post-emergent and a pre-emergent herbicide. So it'll actually kill what's there, and it prevents new stuff from coming up as well. We have a lot of our gardeners here in Cache Valley trained to use the Casoron because it saves so much work. It basically kills everything out there except for woody plants. So a woody has like bark on it. So if it's a shrub or a tree that has bark on it, or if it's a cane plant like a grape or a raspberry or a rose, it won't hurt those at all, but it basically kills everything else, including grasses and morning glory, and it kills dandelions and purslane, and it basically kills the plants that are there, and then it prevents new ones from coming up for 6 months.
Oh, my word.
So you do it once in the spring before your raspberries really start to emerge, like your new canes start to emerge, and it will last for 6 months. So if that's in March, you'll get like April, May, June, July, August, basically into September out of it. You won't have to worry about weeding. So an amazing product. It's available at a lot of different stores. It's called Casoron. It comes in a granule, and you do one application with that, get rid of all the weeds that are in there, and it will prevent new weeds from coming up for the rest of the year. And it's totally safe to use in all kinds of edibles as long as they are woody. So as long as they've got bark on them, so you use it around fruit trees and blackberries, like I said, grapes, won't hurt those, basically kills everything else.
Would it work around lilac bushes or maybe butterfly bushes?
Absolutely.
As well?
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as it has bark on it, it won't bother it a bit. So it's used around a lot of ornamentals, and you just can't use it in bulbs. You couldn't use it around your perennial flowers. You can't use it in ground covers. If it's got bark on it, it's got a woody stem to it, it's safe. If it's not, it's toast.
Okay, got it. Yeah. That's amazing. Well, I'll make mention of that in the episode notes. So if you're out there driving and you're listening to the show, you can check the episode notes later for that.
for the Casoron. And then when it comes to pruning, it really depends on whether you've got June bearing or whether you've got ever bearing raspberries. And so there's a different way to prune those. And on our website, we actually have a fruit growing guide that kind of walks you through all the small fruits. And it's got a really great pruning guide in there too, that shows you how to prune and when to prune, especially with like your fruit trees but especially raspberries. It's hard to figure it out. So if you've got ever bearing raspberries, there's two ways you can do it. You can just cut them down to the ground in the spring, and all the new growth that comes up, they'll produce a heavy crop in the fall, but you won't get that summertime crop. So if you want them to produce in the summer, what we do in the spring is we cut them down to about 3 feet. Good time to fertilize them at that point too. So prune them down, fertilize, and then those canes from last year, they'll produce new growth that comes off of those canes. And where that growth comes off, that's where it's going to produce fruit this year. But once they're done fruiting in June or early July, then those canes are never going to fruit again. So you cut those down to the ground and get rid of those old canes. But the new canes that have come up in the spring, we leave those because they're the ones that are going to produce in the fall for you. So basically every time I prune the raspberries, I fertilize them. Something with iron, something with sulfur in there, because the sulfur brings the pH down. Raspberries are almost always iron deficient. They need a little bit of iron and a high nitrogen fertilizer. So prune, fertilize. Then in the summer, we pick, we prune again, we fertilize again, and then you'll have a great crop of raspberries in the fall.
Wow. You've got that down pat. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a question I answer all the time. So it's like, I can do that in my sleep.
And is it similar with boysenberry or blackberry?
Yes, because the blackberries are a little bit different because they're more viney, so they spread out all over the place. But usually in the springtime, we'll prune those down to about 3 to 5 feet. And again, you want to encourage some growth that comes off those older canes. But if you don't prune them a little bit aggressively, they will spread everywhere. They're just like all over the place. The blackberries are really aggressive. You go up into Washington or Oregon and you ask somebody for a blackberry and they just laugh at you because they're like wild all over the place. And you just grow on the side of the road. They're weeds basically up there. Yeah, we want to encourage them here, but they can get out of control. If you have a June bearing raspberry, we're going to prune it just like the second version of the ever bearing raspberries that I mentioned. You're going to prune them down to about 3 feet in the spring, fertilize them, encourage that new growth. But once you pick those canes, the canes that you pick the fruit off of, we're going to take those old canes out because they'll never fruit again. And then we let the new growth come up. But then in the fall, I try not to do too much pruning in the fall because usually I have to prune them again in the springtime. So if they're really tall, we'll trim them down just a little bit in the fall. But then in the spring, back down to the 3 to 4 feet and fertilize, and away we go again. And there's so much, they're amazing to pick. And, if you got the right spot, and raised beds work great. Raspberries like well-drained soil. They like full sun, and they like a fairly light soil. They don't like a really heavy clay soil. So raised beds work great for those. And you can keep them contained so they don't like bramble out all over the place. So
yeah. And now is a great time to plant raspberries, obviously with there's an R in April.
There's an R in April. Yep,
yeah.
There's an R in April. So we usually encourage our customers to get them in March and in April, because once you start planting into May, it warms up too fast and they just don't get established well enough before the heat kicks in, and you'll end up losing some of your canes.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I love it. And how often do they like to be watered?
You don't want to water too frequently. So we try and water ours fairly thoroughly about once a week. So a good deep watering once a week. And most of those roots are down deep enough that, even if the soil dries out on the top 2 or 3 inches, there's still moisture down below, even in the hottest, driest part of the summer. So no problems there.
Okay. There's 2 things I really want to cover with you before we go today. Okay. One, I want to talk a little bit about kind of the elephant in the room with what happened with that frost in all of our fruit trees, and give our users some guidance along that. And then I want you to tell us all about the store, what else they can find in addition to the seeds, and where you're located and all that fun stuff.
Oh, absolutely. We had much colder temperatures here in Cache Valley, but fortunately our trees hadn't bloomed yet. And so all of our trees are starting to bloom. So we're not seeing any problems here in Cache Valley. But on the other side of the mountains, on the Wasatch Front, you had a lot of blossoms out, and we had some cold enough temperature to damage those. I mean, Mother Nature is really unique in the fact that, not all the fruit comes on at the same time. Not all the blossoms open at the same time. So rest assured that there's backup systems in place so that if you have a late frost, it doesn't take out the entire crop, but it might thin things out naturally, which might not be such a bad thing because last year we had such heavy production on all of the trees, but the heat really kind of stifled the fruit production. And so the fruit was really small and it wasn't as good a quality. At least it was in our area. And I'm thinking the same, for Salt Lake as well too. So natural thinning is not such a bad thing. And so you may not have as many fruit on your tree, but I'll bet the fruit will be a much better quality and it will be a lot larger. So it'll be better. So
I love
silver lining possibly, but the fruit growers don't like to see that ever.
No.
But
I've heard
it does
that
happen.
It gives the tree a little bit of a break, which I guess is good every once in a while.
So I mean, last year I went to Brigham City because that's where we go and get peaches and apricots and stuff. And they had lots of fruit, but it was really small. The fruit was really, really small. This year, you probably won't see as much fruit, but it'll be big and it'll be really good. So yeah. But, Anderson's, we are a full service garden center. So, of course, we specialize in seed. We do a lot of grass seed. We do our grass seed in bulk as well, too. So you can come in and, say I've got 250 square feet. We can weigh up as much grass seed as you want that way. Grass is going to be hard to get this year.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a shortage on grass because of the production last year. And so it's not so much of a supply chain issue, but a production issue last year because of the heat in Portland and Washington area last year was just so hot. And so it just did not produce viable seed like it normally does. So you're going to see grass problems. Availability issues this year, but we have full greenhouses. We have a full nursery. I mean, we're right downtown in Logan. So, if you know where the Tabernacle is in Logan, we are on the block just west of that Tabernacle, right on Center Street. So we're on historic Center Street. It's a beautiful place to be. The street's gorgeous, flowers and color all over the place on Center Street. We never come up to see Center Street in the middle of summer. It's absolutely gorgeous. And of course, we got our nursery there. We've got our greenhouses right there. And it's kind of a unique location right there in the middle of downtown Logan.
That is beautiful. Now, think I might have seen something about Christmases are really special there. Is that right?
Yep. So we switch the whole store over from garden and we do holidays. And we really focus on Christmas, but we do a little bit of Halloween and we definitely do a lot of Thanksgiving stuff and fall decor as well too, but we transformed the whole store over to Christmas. So last year we had about 26 different fully themed decorated Christmas trees, and we do all the lights and we do all the decor and we do custom stuff and we go out and we decorate homes for people and we just do it. We just do it upright at Anderson. So think about, when Modern Display used to do their huge displays of Christmas there in Salt Lake, we kind of do that as well too. We still do that. And so it's a lot of work to transform the store over, but it's also a lot of fun. It makes the season a lot more exciting for us and a lot more meaningful as well too. So
that is so neat. And is there any other events coming up in the summer or spring you want to mention?
That's a great question. Since we are downtown in Logan, it's like there's a summer market that goes starting in about mid-May. That is a Wednesday market. So we do a Wednesday market there. And there's some great things going on in the summer with the Utah Festival Opera. And it's all just right downtown there in Logan. And it's a great place to be. There's a lot of great places to eat. But Center Street's just absolutely gorgeous with the flowers. So we put new planters in there and the whole street's just covered with flowers in the summertime. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to come up and see you this year because it just sounds absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Okay, so one last thing before we go. I know that you had mentioned you have a YouTube video with a lot of views, and I think it's timely because people are going to be doing it. Tell us about it.
Right. So this is our hanging basket secret recipe. And so if you go onto YouTube and you just search for hanging basket secret recipe, and it shows you how we get our hanging baskets to bloom and bloom and bloom and bloom and cascade all summer long. And so it kind of gives you a couple products to use. Most people don't feed their hanging baskets enough. And so we actually recommend you feed twice a week and sometimes even 3 times a week. But we also have a secret ingredient in there that helps the baskets hold and retain moisture. So there's a product that's called Easy Wet that we put into our fertilizer mix. And what it does is it binds to the soil. And then when you apply the soil, it pulls the water into the soil and it will hydrate the basket evenly all the way through. So you don't have dry spots in your basket.
Okay.
In the middle of summer, when it's really, really hot, your soil will dry out and it will shrink. It will pull away from the sides of the pot, and then it won't hydrate up properly after that because the water just kind of runs down the inside of the pot and out the bottom. You think you've watered your plant. Well, the Easy Wet will help it so it'll hold that moisture, then also hold the nutrient there for your plant. So we feed. So we do like Mondays and Thursdays with different fertilizers to get them to cascade and one to get them to bloom. But the key is really to get those plants to stay hydrated in the middle of summer. And we'll get 12-inch baskets that'll cascade, 3 feet and just be covered with flowers. So it's a really great video to take a look at
Unbelievable.
and try. We have people all over the country that are doing that, and they're just having amazing results. I get pictures from people all over the place. They're just like,
so cool.
my baskets are amazing. Thank you so much. It's like, it's really not that difficult. It's pretty easy to do. Patience and persistence and consistency is what it takes.
I was going to say consistency for sure. It
Yeah.
definitely sounds
Yeah.
like that's the key.
Yeah.
Well, I'll put a link to that YouTube video in our episode notes as well. Well, Mark, it has been so fun having you here on Gardening Utah.
Oh, for sure, Jana.
I'll put a link to your website as well, all the notes we've talked about in the episode notes today, and I cannot wait to have you back.
Sounds great. I would love to be on again. It's been so much fun. Thank you.
When you're ready to grow big or go home, make your neighbors green with envy. Get the Gardening in Utah podcast, Gardening Utah, available wherever you get your podcasts and at 860kkat.com/garden.
We are supported by ProgressivePlant.com. They are the experts that the professionals go to for all things plants. Progressive Plants has over 1 million plants at their 100-acre nursery up in Copperton. And you can shop those plants from right at home at ProgressivePlants.com. They are your neighbor's next door and experts at helping you choose the perfect and unique plants that will thrive in your location. Progressive Plants is passionate about helping homeowners, expert gardeners, novices alike choose the correct plant for your soil. They don't just grow plants, they know plants. Let Progressive Plants help you today. Just go to ProgressivePlants.com and check out their wide selection. You can also go to the Design tab and look at the expert designers that they have that can help you plan your perfect yard. Visit ProgressivePlants.com today. Steals.com has an amazing selection, all at prices up to 70% off. Your shopping destination is just a click away at Steals.com, but don't delay. The daily Steal changes every day at 9 a.m. You'll find everything for kids, for women, and the home. Everything you'd need to throw a great birthday party, gifts for friends, women's shoes, furniture for the home, and more. Steals.com is the perfect destination to have gifts delivered right to your door. Be inspired by Steals.com, where you can discover thousands of special items, all at amazing prices. At Steals.com, women are having fun discovering something new every day. It's a must-have for busy moms. Download the mobile app and make it easy to shop on the go. Now it's your turn. Discover new selections and unbeatable prices. Shop Steals.com and start saving today. Steals.com, Steals.com.